All right, what's going on, class? Welcome to week 3. That is right, week number 3 of your 7305 course, which is your Foundations of the Library and Information Sciences course. As always, I am Dr. Jace, and today, rather than teaching you something practical like going through the syllabus and what we did last week was review interlibrary loan, as well as we used the journal finder feature. This time around for week 3, I do not have any of that practical work to go over, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of soapboxing and just try to make a distinction as to why libraries are still important in this day and age, why libraries and really why those who can discern good information from bad information, why that is an important skill in this day and age. And this will go back to some of the democracy stuff that we all kind of discussed last week in week 2. However, I did not want to make the week 2 check-in video too long, which is why I wound up doing those things that's why I tabled this particular talk for week 3. So Dr. Jace is going to first just do a few course updates and announcements, and from there I am going to play a clip for you, and I am going to contextualize that clip within LIS rhetoric. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Dr. Jace wants to first do just a few course announcements, or course updates, however you want to say it. First and foremost, what I do want you all to realize more than anything else is that you're mostly on the right track. So I just got through reading discussion posts for week number 2, and you all have done those very, very well. Keep that same energy. Where I'm from, one thing that we say to each other is keep that energy. And I am going to ask you all to keep the same energy that you have shown on the discussion board so far. They've been very detailed. They've been very full. You all are responding to one another in a way, therefore networking with each other. And I want you all to realize that you're doing that because it might be subconscious for you right now that you're actually networking as you communicate with your classmates and peers. But that's what you're doing, and you need to keep it up. But you're doing a very good job so far. So for the most part, I am very, very pleased with the action that I see on the discussion boards. However, there are a few of you who, in the discussion prompts, say this very clearly, so there's no excuse. You should be both making an original post and responding to at least one classmate. Now, I prefer if you don't do the bare minimum, which is just an original post and responding to a classmate. I would like for you to actually do more than the bare minimum. However, that is the bare minimum. That's what will get you an A for the week on the discussion post. If you do not respond to a classmate, and there were 4 of you who did not, then you're not going to get full credit. And the prompts say this very clearly, so there is no excuse. I am trying my best to make sure that everybody has the best grade possible within reason. I mean, of course, I could just record A+ for everybody, but that's not what my employer pays me to do. So unfortunately, that's not what I'm going to be doing for you all. So yes, please don't forget to not only make an original post, but also respond to at least one classmate by the due date. And that way you will get your full credit, okay? The second thing that I just want to mention is, yes, your annotated bibliography, the due date is coming up. So we have, well, I guess we're not going to see it there, but we can see it elsewhere. So if we go to assignments and scroll down, then you will see that your assignment number 2, your annotated bibliography, is due on June the 28th, and that is Sunday night. So it is due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. If you are a few hours late, I don't count off for that. So, because I did have a question from somebody who got their assignment in at like 12:05. So 6 minutes late. No, I'm not that petty. I do have that 11:59 p.m. in place to protect myself, because if I leave it open-ended, then somebody is definitely going to test me. But if you're a few hours late, that's totally fine. If by the time I wake up Monday morning, I have an assignment from you, then you're not going to lose points. So that's just the way it goes. All right. So just know those annotated bibliographies are coming due, and they will be due Sunday night. And the Purdue Owl actually has a pretty good page on annotated bibliographies. So I'm just going to go there really, really quickly. Purdue Owl APA annotated bibliography. Yeah. All right, so you can pull this up, and you will get an overview for annotated bibliographies, as well as an annotated bibliography breakdown page and some annotated bibliography samples. So this can be a very good resource for you if you are trying to see some examples of annotated bibliographies and see some directions in addition to the directions that I supplied. So you have that at your disposal. Please use what is at your disposal. And then also, if you have questions, please feel free to email me, austinj@missouri.edu. Any place, anytime, any town, we are good. And so now I'm going to just show a video clip for you all, just to get your brains working, to get that brain meat going, as we say. And if you have something you want to say in response to the video and what I'm going to say after the video is over, by all means, go to the Free for All forum space, which I see several of you have been using, and I'm very happy about that. Very happy about it. You can go there and you can discuss what you heard and your reactions to it. But this is more appropriate for the week 2 content, but I wanted to go ahead and show you all how to use Interlibrary Loan and Journal Finder. So that's why I delayed it to week 3. So with that said, let's pull this video up. And I can't find the original link, so what I'm having to do is go back to one of my previous videos and go from there. Man, I look so much younger without this beard. But anyway, here we go.
Period. Next. Not only am I not backing up, I want to take it further now, because Stephen A. just now and both of us yesterday talked philosophically about how you have to make a choice. You have to weigh the evidence, weigh what's in front of you, and make a choice, even if you feel like the choice is suboptimal. Because if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, it's the enemy of the good. The perfect is the enemy of the good. Just make the best choice you can. If it means incremental change, fine, whatever. But we spoke broadly philosophically about this. Now I want to talk specifically about, because Colin Kaepernick here, I'm angry about it, is so outrageous. The only thing I can think is that he is susceptible to low-quality information. You know, the internet means we have a lot of information, but if you don't have the faculties, if you don't have the ability to process it and sift out what's good quality information from low quality information, you are susceptible to the kind of conclusions Colin Kaepernick has drawn. Let me be specific. He says systematic oppression of I guess, black and brown lives, right? That's what he was protesting. And that neither the candidates are the same, essentially, in that sense. It's idiotic. That is idiotic. Now, look, let me go through the list. You care about black and brown lives? What do you think about stop and frisk, which was found to be unconstitutional? How do you think that has an effect on the way police and the communities they interact with? What kind of outcomes do you expect from practices that are considered unconstitutional? Remember stop and frisk in New York City? Rudy Giuliani, he might be the head of the Department of Justice. What kind of outcomes are you expecting then? How about this? Forget about the Supreme Court for a second, which has a tremendous influence on issues like this. For example, illegal search and seizure. I mean, they make those rules, and that has a direct effect on the policing of communities. Now, if Kaepernick feels like, hey, harsher law and order rules are actually good for people of color, okay, fine, then you vote one way. If you think, no, it makes bad outcomes, then you vote another. But it's more, and it's deeper than that. The president also appoints lower federal judges who have great discretion in terms of sentencing guidelines. How about this? Because Jason Whitlock brings this up a lot. If you're talking about black and brown lives matter, in fact, interaction with police is not nearly as important as mass incarceration, which this election will also have an enormous impact on. For example, drug laws. I brought up search and seizure. I brought up all these other drug laws. They're finally starting to untangle the drug laws through the court, which will alleviate the problem over time of mass incarceration. If that gets all stitched back together, which based on who Trump is likely to appoint versus who Hillary was likely to appoint, it likely will get stitched back together. What do you think is going to happen to mass incarceration of black and brown folk? I mean, the idea that he treats both candidates the same because of systematic oppression as though they will have no effect on the system is so juvenile. It's either juvenile or extremely lazy. Shame on you, Colin Kaepernick. You know, smarten up, kid. He's not a college player. He's an adult, and he talks about how he's becoming socially conscious and he's getting his eyes open. Open them a little bit wider. How about this? Google it. It takes 5 seconds. How hard is this stuff? It is outrageous for him to make those comments.
Okay, so what that was, and if there wasn't enough context there, that was from a show that I watched called First Take. The gentleman speaking there, his name is Max Kellerman, and Max, this was actually from about 4 years ago, and Max and the co-host of this show, Stephen A. Smith, they were criticizing a NFL quarterback that you all probably have heard of, Colin Kaepernick. He's been in the news quite a bit recently as well. But they were criticizing him for his decision not to vote in the 2016 election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of it. I respect, I will admit, and this is going to show in some of the things that I say later in the course. Yes, I will admit I'm a liberal. Yes, I will admit that I was a registered Democrat in the state of North Carolina. I don't think I've declared party affiliation here in Missouri. But in the state of North Carolina, I was a registered Democrat, and I am left-leaning. However, I've got friends who are Trump fans. I've got friends who voted for Trump. We make it work because we are not going to let people who don't care about us as individuals ruin our friendships with one another. But however you handle friendships these days, it is all up to you. And I know it's very difficult in this age of polarized politics and social media. But do whatever works best for you. But what I will say is, without getting into the politics of that, what I really wanted y'all to catch is how, yes, Colin Kaepernick, from the statements that he made at the time, it really sounds like he did not see noticeable difference between, or enough difference, I should say, between Donald Trump as a presidential candidate and Hillary Clinton as a presidential candidate. And I do feel that this is the result, as Max Kellerman said, of low quality information. And perhaps, now I'm not going to say whether or not I agreed with Trump's election. It's not really for this class. But what I will say is I do very much wonder if people were more dedicated to finding high quality information, and if their information seeking behaviors were, for lack of a better word, better. I do wonder if the election would have had the same outcome. And I don't just mean the general election. I do also mean the primary election. I kind of wonder, I've got some curiosities as to how the quality of information that people were encountering, whether that information was of high enough quality for people to make political decisions based on that information. And again, you are free to disagree. Without saying how much I do or don't like any of the political candidates of 2016 or of this 2020 cycle. What I am going to say is that in 2016, I watched pretty much every debate, Democrat, Republican, and the general election debates between Hillary and Trump. And what I will say is, yes, I do very much think that regardless of how you feel about Trump's actual governance, I think that he did not look as good in the debates, honestly, as his opponents. Whether his opponent was Hillary or whether his opponent was Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush. Those are three guys in particular who stand out to me from the 2016 Republican candidates. I really feel, so I don't want this to sound like a partisan thing. I think that Trump actually looked weaker in the debates than the other Republican candidates in the primaries. I definitely think that Marco Rubio did a better job of debating until he got caught up in some of Trump's tactics, as far as I think Rubio made fun of Trump's hand size or something like that. But it was kind of like a way to employ some of the same tactics that I think Trump was employing in some of the debates. And I think that, yeah, I think that when you can sit there and watch Trump not be as good on the debate stage as Rubio and Jeb and Cruz and Kasich and some of these other people, I think that that may be a sign that the fact that he still won means that there was bad information coming at people outside of those debates. Now, whether that bad information was coming from social media, whether it was coming from bots, and I think that there were bots that were deceiving both sides of the aisle. So again, I don't want to upset anybody who's a Republican or a conservative. I definitely think that there were bots that were deceiving people on the left as well. And I even think that some of these bots may have influenced people who are normally part of the Democratic voting bloc to not show support for Hillary in the general election. There were definitely a lot of things said about her record on, really her husband's record on signing the crime bill and things of that nature that I think turned off a lot of voters in 2016. So all of that to say that I think that that clip does a good job in showing that there are consequences. There are consequences to voters in a republic basing their voting decisions, whether that's for candidate A or candidate B or candidate C or no candidates at all, a conscientious abstain. I think that there are consequences. There are, if people are getting bad information in a republic, then they will vote in ways that may not serve them and may not serve other members of the republic. And again, I don't want this to sound like a Trump bash. And that's specifically why I also like this video, is because it's not left versus right. Colin Kaepernick is a figure on the left, but Max Kellerman is also a figure on the left. If you've listened to his politics, he is very left-leaning. So I didn't want to turn this into a left versus right thing or Democrat versus Republican thing. Bad information is something that we are all susceptible to and that we all have to be conscious and alert and vigilant in regards to as we are shaping our opinions and getting ready to vote in November. And I will even say, I have not made a decision as to who I'm voting for this November, or if I am going to vote in the general election for either major party candidate. So again, I don't want this to be seen as any sort of endorsement of one party or the other. It is totally not. And regardless of who I vote for and if I vote this this November, I know that a lot of the people I know will be doing things differently from how I do them in the voting booth. So I just wanted to put that out there. We are at 21 minutes, so I'm going to can it right here. But please know the value and importance of high quality information in a republic. All right, that is my time. I'm Dr. Jace. We still don't know how COVID works, so try to stay 6 feet from my face, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.